effective and all that, getting hit multiple times. Coming out of that bike section, more drivers coming to blows.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula V Weekend Warriors. This is the 12th and final round of the season, coming to you today from Brands Hatch. My name is Ron Maunz, and alongside me, working the comms and the cams as always, is Mr. Joshua Wilkie. Well, Josh, a journey that began at the start of Season 2, all the way back in March, is now ending here at the start of June. And to end this season off, we head off to Brands Hatch, a track that is really like a match made in heaven here in these Formula Vs. You got those long straightaways that keep the field very competitive. You got some good overtaking opportunities as well, and really just from like a spiritual level as well. Old school racetrack, old school cars, it just works.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. I love that we're finishing off our season here at Brands Hatch. It's just a great racetrack. This is, I believe, a little bit of a different layout than we're usually used to here, if I'm not mistaken. But this is a great place to finish off the season, if you ask me. Fast, hustly sports car track. Not a whole lot of draft around here that we're usually used to in these cars, so it's going to change things just a little bit. And I'm really here for it, for sure. So I think this is going to be a really good one, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of the Masters guys do pretty good today. As we have seen throughout the season, these kind of difficult tracks, seem to be where those Masters drivers shine.
Yeah, so this could be a one where Masters drivers end up peeking out to maybe have a shot at an overall race win. Everybody going to be gunning for it as we get into the final round of the Formula Vs, and with the new Weekend Warriors Summer Showdown format coming up here, it'll be, I guess technically speaking, the last Formula V show that we get to do on Saturdays, at least until the fall. So adds in a little bit of extra importance. We'll touch on that a little bit later on here in the show, and also talk about the forthcoming 49th Weekend Warriors virtual runoffs, which will be held here in about a week's time. Currently in the midst of qualifying, drivers setting their first lap times on the board, and Tortolo kind of dominating the first laps as he has done this season. We'll actually use this as a good segue to talk about our championship points, and then we can get off into qualifying once these drivers really start to set some good representative times and get them in their back pockets. We're going to start off as we usually do in Spec 1, and I do have some unfortunate news to the Guido Marzucchi fans tuning into this broadcast, or any neutral observers looking for a good little championship fight, because as a result of the incident that Guido had last week at Lebanon, the championship battle in the Spec 1 category is non-existent. Tortello is your champion here in Season 2 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors here in 2026. That's back-to-back championships once more for him. I believe that's his maybe not overall, but certainly his 5th championship here in this series in the time that we've been covering them here on SMB. Guido comfortably in 2nd. Josh Justice is currently in a very close battle, though, for 3rd. Only 2 points between himself and Michelle Lynn, who's actually the sponsor of today's broadcast here of the Formula V Weekend Warriors as well. Brian Szynski not too far behind in 5th. However, Brian is up there at Road America for the SCCA June Sprints, so he will not be out there on the racetrack here today. Sam Chapman, Angel Soto, Chris Montgomery, Nate Coliseo, Parvinder Ladar complete your top 10. You can see the rest of the drivers likes of Ethan Orr, Ken Poulin, Felix Samoes, Andy Middleton, Christopher Siriano, Ian Joyner, Trip Isley, and Rob Wright, along with Scott Russell, Jesus Rodriguez, and Kane Lasky. The rest of the drivers classified there, although the only one driver scoring points is Kane Lasky, yet to have one on the board. Now we take a look at Spec 2, where it was close to being a 2-horse race, but we know for a fact that it is a 2-horse race. Jason Grider not participating here today. He's not feeling well. We will wish him the best. I've been suffering from a cold myself for the better part of a week now, so I guess it's maybe that time of year, I suppose. But Jason Grider not going to be able to defend his crown from last season here in this series. However, Brian Hansen and Martin Visser, 9 points separate them heading off into the season finale. That is going to be a really interesting championship fight to keep our eyes on here, Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. In the S2 category, one of my favorites there, and we definitely have some pretty close points in there for sure. But I believe if we move on now to the Masters, we're also going to find some pretty close points here as well. Jim Brewster and Alan DeGassis. Jim Brewster not going to be with us today, I don't believe. So that's, oh, he is actually out there. What do you know? He's out there. So we do have a bit of a battle up in the Masters category here, and then of course Kurt Nunez in 3rd, a little bit farther behind, and then a pretty close point spread between him and Nick Tullo as well. So depending on what happens there, we may have an upset as well. And then Wayne Buttermore and Nick Tullo are actually tied for 4th place, so we'll see how that tiebreaker breaks out today. Then we have Andrew Love, Gary Kittle, Paul Corradashini, Antonio Reese, Jorg Mani, Stevie Ray, and Jeff Wubker bringing out the last Masters driver. And we have a lot of Masters drivers out there today, Ron.
Yeah, that we do. It is a very stacked field of Masters drivers. And I actually received word from Jim Brewster heading off into this week. First off, fantastic to see Jim back out there on the racetrack after a couple of weeks off as a result of surgery and an illness. He's back out there on the racetrack. However, because of those rounds that he was missing, he is in a bit of a speck of trouble with the drop rounds. Of course, the series does have drop rounds. Covering this series for as long as I have, you'd think that I would know this for sure, but I believe it's 3 drop rounds here for this season. Take the best 9 results out of it all. So Jim, heading out of this season, will have to drop 57 points. However, Alan DeGassis and Kurt Nunez, they will be collecting all of their points. I don't believe they have points that they will be dropping as they missed out on some weeks. So pretty much if Alan DeGassis shows up here in this race, as Jim put it, which he has, he's currently qualified in 4th, the championship may go to him. So that will be very interesting. Of course, the Spec 2 category, pretty up in the air as to who may or may not get the championship. Spec 1, that is going to be pretty intense between Josh Justice and Michelle Lynn. But outside of that, it's going to just be a fun day to round off this season here in the Formula V Weekend Warriors. And as always, I want to thank you all for tuning into the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today. We're currently past the halfway mark in qualifying. Tortello and Guido Marzucchi, as they have done throughout a vast majority of the season, Josh, up at the front.
Yeah, right up at the front again. And unfortunately, because of that that incident with Guido, we're not going to have that maybe epic battle for at least the points that we would usually have. But I would imagine that they're going to fight pretty hard today, regardless. And then you can see Jim Brewster just behind them there. See that point, or the time spread just a little bit up at the top. It's actually quite a bit bigger than it usually is at a lot of tracks there. We're seeing about a 1/10 difference up at the front, almost 2/10 actually, and then another 1/10 or 2 or 3 after that, and then another 1/10 after that, and then another 1/10 after that, and then we start to get really close together, and then it starts to kind of break away a little bit again. So a little bit of a fractured qualifying here. Usually we see, everybody you can kind of throw maybe even over a second, down to 10th or 11th place, but today it's looking a little bit different, and that does maybe a little bit indicative of just how difficult this track can be. It looks like a bit of an easy prospect on paper. You see the track map of it. Doesn't really look that deadly, but when you get out on it, there is some pretty deceivingly difficult corners around this place that are hard every lap that I've still not really been able to fully grasp, to be honest, Ron. So we'll see how it goes out there today, but it looks like Tortello up at the top there definitely has the class of the field today.
Yeah, as he has done throughout this season, holding on to a very good spot. As I'm actually going to correct myself from a misstatement that I made earlier. Brian Szynski is out here on the racetrack. He's participating in this race. See, I'm not sure whether he's doing this from his sim rig inside the trailer, because I know the Szynskis are running at the other June sprint. I'm not sure whether Dan is up there or Brian. I know for a fact that their dad Bill is competing there. Nice to see Bill out there on the racetrack. I know that he was dealing with some health issues over the past couple of years, so nice to see him return to the cockpit of a Formula V. But Brian out there on the racetrack here in sim form, so we'll have to see what he may be able to do. Jumps his way up into 4th right towards the end of this qualifying session. That'll be enough for the second row alongside series admin Jim Brewster. Szynski, part of the review committee here in this series, so it'll be good to see some series admins up towards the front of the field. As I was going to use that as an opportunity to drag Michelle Lynn in, but I just saw that she departed from the other driver interview waiting area that we have. We're getting to the end of the season. We usually do a season, season conclusion, week 13 snack run and snack stack up there. So we'll have to see if Michelle can rejoin the booth here, so we can have a chat with her before we get up and rolling here in this race. One that, as you noted a few moments ago, Josh, a little bit spread out in qualifying, but it's the Formula Vs. They're going to be packed in like sardines come time for the race.
Yeah, absolutely. This place, is going to be a little more dicey than usual, I think. They're not being the longest of draft trains around here to be able to do. There's so many corners around here. You're not really going to have as much time to keep up, but I still think, as you said there, we're going to have a pretty good pack of cars here shortly. And I actually did get a message from Brian Szynski this morning that says Dan and him are racing out of the Racing Haas in West Bend, Wisconsin today, about 40 minutes from Road America. They said actually there that they'll have the broadcast on listening to us. So hello everybody at Road America. We hope everybody's safe and having a good time out there and has a good result today. And thanks for the message, Brian. We'll keep an eye on you on track here. So it looks like he's racing out of the rig again, away from home, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's always nice to hear some of the stories. So about 40 minutes outside of Road America. Yeah, I'm taking it that they're at like a sort of sim racing cafe up there in Wisconsin. So either way, whether they're in the trailer like Brian did a couple of seasons ago, which from everything that I heard is an experience that he would not recommend, because he described the weather in there as very muggy. Actually, that reminds me, about 24 hours ago, I got the opportunity to hop in the sim rig for the first time since I think October or November of last year at the absolute latest. And I decided first combination I would do would be the Lotus 79 at the Nürburgring. I recorded that footage. I'm not sure if I'll release it because I quite like to not embarrass myself. I already do that enough here on these broadcasts.
Yeah. I've done a couple laps of Lotus 49 around there. It's actually really fun. Once you get a hold of that car, it's actually a pretty fun car to drive. But man, you got to get used to brakes that don't work and tires that don't grip very well. But it's a blast. It really can be a pretty fun car for sure. It takes a little bit of eyeballing in for sure. Every time I jump in it, you have to do a little bit of practice there before you really get used to it. But back to racing here. The only guy on track right now is Martin Visser, and he's just plugging some laps in here. He's in 9th so far. He's the leader in our S2 class with a 145.354. Looking to improve on that here. Not looking like he's got that lap under him. Did get one sector there that was green, so we'll see. Maybe he can improve a little bit here, but I'm not exactly sure, and that's probably going to be our last lap from the drivers here while the rest are sitting in the pit lane getting ready for our race. And of course, we do want to mention again Michelle Lynn's Dull Dime sponsorship for today. Thank you so much, Michelle. I guess she's not with us here. She was waiting in the waiting room there, but is now getting ready to race. So maybe we'll try to catch up with her after the race, Ron.
Yeah, I think we'll give her the floor a little bit later on here in this broadcast. Talk to her just a little bit. Michelle Lynn, of course, one of our friends here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, obviously one of the other league admins here in the Formula V's, and fellow Philadelphian. I'll have to go out on a trip to her neck of the woods. Probably. See, she's given me the lore that although D'Alessandro's in Roxborough is considered one of the best cheesesteak places here in the city, she has argued that a place called Chubby's, right in Roxborough, is just as good, if not maybe even better, than D'Alessandro's, which is always a little bit odd to hear, just because there's a place right around my neck of the woods here in the far northeast of Philly, right around the Fox Chase area, called Chubby's, and they do not sell cheesesteaks, although they do sell something called an old man sandwich. It's roast beef provolone with like onions and a garlic mayo, which is very, very nice. See, now I'm hungry. All I've had is a bowl of watermelon here today, so we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. In the meantime, though, qualifying now officially in our rearview mirror, so we can take a look at your starting grid here for the season finale of the Formula V Weekend Warriors. Your champion in waiting in the Spec 1 category, your reigning champion, will still be the case. Tortello going to start this race from the pole. Guido Marzucchi going to join him on the front row. Jim Brewster will grab the pole in the Masters division. He'll be next to Brian Szynski, starting alongside in 4th. Alan Degassis, who it seems like may be on track for a championship in the Masters category, will be in 5th, next to a fellow Masters driver in the form of Andrew Love. Michelle Lynn, the sponsor of this broadcast, will start in 7th, next to Kurt Nunez in P8. Martin Visser will be your Spec 2 pole sitter, starting this race in 9th, with Stevie Ray completing our top 10.
And then after that, we have Joshua Justice in the 099 car. Then Nick Tullo will be in 12th place. In 13th place, we have Dan Szynski. In 14th, Brian Hansen. 15th, Gary Kittle. 16th is Angel Soto. In 17th, we have Stefan Westcott. In 18th, Paul Koradeshi. In 19th, Wayne Buttermore bringing up the rear. And that will be our field for the final round of the Formula V Weekend Warriors this week. Not exactly sure who's going to take this one. It is going to be a race of good decisions and making sure that you kind of respect the drivers around you. I have a feeling, Ron, we're going to have some side-by-side racing here. We're going to have some late dives, and it's really going to be about making those dives count. And we shall see how it works out here. Not quite as much drafting as we're usually used to, is it?
Yeah, no, just a small little sprinkling of a draft heading down that back straightaway from 4 into 5. That's kind of it. You've got the start-finish straightaway, which it keeps the drivers close. That's kind of it. You can't really eye up a move, especially heading down to turn number 1 at Brands Hatch. It feels like you're driving off the side of a cliff as you head your way through that turn, and it's just tight enough whereby side-by-side racing through there can occasionally end in disaster. We're now deploying here on the pace lap. As you can see, some of the dust getting kicked up from the back of that iRacing pace car. Well, marked off as a safety car there. We'll call it the pace car here in the Formula V's. It's setting the pace and setting the trend for what is going to be a pretty interesting way to bring this season to a conclusion. Quick little touch on the weather right now. It's the UK, so you'd usually expect for it to be rainy. However, it is quite dry right now, Ambient temperature is a bit on the lower end, currently 65 degrees Fahrenheit. That's towards the bottom end of what you can get on iRacing. However, with barely a cloud in the sky, the track temperature is currently at 104. Very similar, in fact, weather to what we saw last time out at Lebanon. So 2 similar weeks in terms of weather, 2 very different racetracks to bring this season of Formula V Weekend Warriors action to a conclusion. Tortello guns it early, the green flag flies, and the drivers are on their way. Fantastic start from Tor, gonna lead them off into turn number 1. Jim Brewster slotted directly behind Guido Marzucchi in third, with Brian Szynski looking to make up some moves as well, right behind rear gunner of those Spec 1 runners up towards the top of the field, currently holding on to third in class, fourth at the moment. Side by side in some other battles farther behind and some bad lockups into 2, but a very smooth and somewhat formulaic start here at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, not a bad start at all on here so far. Pretty single file here, except for the Hot Dog 55. I believe that's Angel Soto. Brian Hansen just behind him. They're going to file it out now and find a single file way through this section of the course. This is definitely a spot right here you don't want to go too wide through. It's slow, almost painfully slow, even when you're going through it solo, let alone side by side. So that's one that you want to make sure you get sorted out. But Tortello leading us a good jump off the line there, able to hold on to that one. Guido Marzucchi applying some pressure from behind. You have also Jim Brewster there, and then Brian Straczynski just behind them, looking for a way around each other. And I would imagine actually right now they're probably sitting there fairly comfortable where they are, looking for a place maybe in a lap or 2 here. I would be comfortable where I am right now behind Tor, probably hold that position for a little bit, see if I can find some weakness somewhere, and then maybe just apply some pressure and see if I can crack them, which is, we know, not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, Tortello, the way that he tackles a race is almost superhuman. He is always able to get the good results, be able to withstand the pressure. We call him the photo finish maestro, and if you could do well in a photo finish, you can do well in various scenarios. That applying that pressure on, about as thick as icing on top of a wedding cake. If you can do that well, like Tortello can, you can be unstoppable. He's not unstoppable, but he's pretty darn close to it here in the Formula Vs. He leads lap 1 over Guido Marzucchi, over Jim Brewster. Brewster, your current leader in the Masters category, with Martin Visser still leading in Spec 2. His contact at the back of the field as Paul Gorodetzky again spun around. That's himself and Stephen Westcott coming to blows as they headed their way through that ever-challenging turn 1.
Yeah, that was one of those really slow-mo incidents where you're watching it and just, no, the whole time it's happening, and not much either one of them could do about it. You're sort of committed in that corner at that moment right there. Once you come over that rise and you've turned, there's not a whole lot you can do on the brakes or on any of the other controls you have really there to stop the car from drifting out wide. And they kind of went into it, they got committed to that incident before it happened, sort of deal. So unfortunately that's going to push Paul kind of back a little bit there. Hopefully he can make some of that up. Maybe we'll have another quick peek at it here as they're coming over into T1. Seems like such a place that you can maybe get this pass done from the outside there, but of course that ever closing angle there just not going to work for him.
Yeah, that's a real trouble of going side by side through turn number 1. You can do on a bicycle in a Formula V, even with these tires that are basically like bicycle tires compared to most other open wheelers. It is darn near impossible. So that kind of proved the point that we raised a bit earlier on in this show. I'm not sure if we'll see anybody else tempt fate, but hey, I've seen stranger things. I'm not talking about the show on Netflix. That battle going on right now up the front. Guido Marzucchi was able to jump ahead of Tortello, but Tortello looking to respond in kind, side by side across the stripe, starting up another lap, and Tor going to be able to sweep around the outside into turn number 1. You've got to play ball in a side-by-side fight into the opening sector of this lap. You can't just hack away at it with a chainsaw, because not only is that going to inflict damage on the car that you're battling with, it's going to come back on you.
Yeah, absolutely. That was textbook from both of them right there. You can see sort of the error that the other two drivers made there, where you're kind of maybe trying to turn the screws a little too much on the car on the outside there, not giving him the room that they need to make that pass happen. And as we know in the Formula Vs, it is about ebb and flowing back and forth. You have to let people by sometimes to be able to keep the momentum in the path that you're driving in. If you turn the screws and you try to block and you get really wide, all it really does is feed you to the wolves, and we know that. And you saw the way that that Guido facilitated that pass for Tor on the outside, giving him all the room he needs so that they can keep up this momentum and keep going. They A, aren't going to make contact and end their races, and B, they're going to keep that momentum going, and that's exactly how you want to do it, as we're seeing a little bit of track limits being used there by, I believe that was Andrew Love going a little bit wide. And this is about that time of the race when you start to do that. You're starting to think now, I'm about 4 or 5 minutes in, I'm a couple laps in here, I'm going to start using the track a little more, see how much speed I actually have out there, see if this is where I'm supposed to be. As we see, I believe that was Brian Trzynski taking a bunch of track there, so that's going to slow him right down, lose a couple positions, unfortunately, Ron.
Yeah, so mistake for Trzynski. He's going to drop down to 8th overall. As we take a look at the replay to see what happened, this is through turn number 7 and 8. This complex, very tricky. You can see as he headed his way down into the banking through 8, just got sideways and squirrely on the entry, and that follows through as you head your way through that very tight corner. It's almost kind of carousel-esque at the Nordschleife, where if you hop the berm and go a little bit too deep into the turn, it will throw you out of the bowl, and you will be in trouble. Unfortunately for Trzynski, that's what went down there, as he now finds himself in the middle of a Hornet's Nest a little bit farther behind. Not to say that this battle up in the front didn't get hot, though. You can just see it on the camera shot, riding on board with this replay of Jim Brewster sawing at the wheel through turn number 1, trying to get down the inside of Guido Marzucchi. Was able to make it work to jump his way up into P2. Not close enough to get the spot over Tortello, although he certainly looked for it heading down into Druids. We ride on board actually now with Tori, still your race leader. Jim, at this point, I'm not sure if a championship scenario can work for him. Again, no drop rounds allotted to him. He has got to go out for glory. At this point, you may as well just do it for fun. End the season off with an overall win. Be the first Masters driver to win one of these Formula V races overall in quite some time.
Oh, as he takes a little bit of track limits there. Yeah, he's definitely back in form here, Jim Brewster. So off of a little bit of maintenance there on the body, I guess. He brought himself to the shop, and now he's up front fighting for a win. So it worked up there. And he's gonna get this win today, so we're rooting for him out there for sure, holding on to that second place fairly handily at the moment here. So it doesn't look like he's definitely got the speed around Brands Hatch today, so we'll see how that one pans out. But just behind them, we got Alan DeGassis leading this pack with Michelle Lynn, Andrew Love, Kurt Nunez, Brian Trzynski, and I believe Martin Visser is going to be just off the back of that one as well. Or actually, he's right up against the back of Brian Trzynski now, who lost a bit of time. So we'll try to keep an eye on this pack as well. I'm expecting to see a little bit of fireworks here as well in this mid-pack, aren't we, Ron? There's going to be some passing opportunities here. As we're looking actually now, I'm not going to quite be able to do it. Going to back out of that one, Michelle is. So that was probably a smart one for the number 5 Dull Dime machine there, not to push that one too hard. You want to keep the momentum up. Don't want to lock wheels. And you got to just wait for that proper moment, which isn't going to be as easy to find around here as some tracks. This place, notoriously not the easiest place to pass around, is it, Ron? There's a lot of places that feel like you can get a pass done, like one is on, but then you find yourself side by side in a really awkward position, and that happens a lot around here.
See, if turn number 1 were like just a solid 90-degree turn instead of being the way that it is with the elevation change, the track falls away from you as you head your way through the turn, you would be able to get a move done if there was a chicane on the inside of there. But if there was a chicane on the inside of Brands Hatch, kind of like what they did to Mont-Tremblant up in Canada a couple of years ago, I'm not sure how people would respond. I'm going to say this, and this is honest, I don't think they would respond well, although that's just my theory. But yeah, you can't really get a move done to turn number 1. Turn 5, at the end of that back straightaway, the draft is strong. You're able to pull alongside. You've got to have the conviction and the confidence to get moves done. That's the main thing. It is confidence. You got to know behind the wheel, okay, I need to position my car this, that. I need to do this. I need to do that. There's a lot of different things that these drivers have to think in their own head, sort of a mental checklist before they can even consider getting a move done here in these Vs. It's such a momentum game that one small little misstep can cause you to lose out on momentum just like that, and lose out on some time just like that as well. So it's a very methodical approach that these drivers have to take into a race like this, even here in the sim, certainly in real life as well. We've got packs of 3 going on right now. We've got that 3-pack between Tullo, Brewster, and Marzucchi up in the front. We had that 3-pack of DeGassis, Lynn, and Andrew Love that we were following a few moments ago. We have this 3-pack on screen right now. That was Josh Justice, Stevie Ray, and Nick Tullo. We've got this little 3-pack here with Kurt Nunez, Brian Trzynski, and Martin Visser. Usually I say a 6-pack of these, which I guess technically this battle is, as there's not really a wedge drawn between Andrew Love and Kurt Nunez, but certainly a competitive race, just not in the way that we usually see at a track like Lime Rock, as an example.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. We're getting the pack driving maybe that we usually see, but not quite in the same way, as you say. Usually you're going to get a little more ebb and flow back and forth down those straightaways is where you're going to see most of the just kind of simple passes happening. They basically just handed to you. Around here, they're not necessarily being handed quite as well. Like you said, you really have to kind of hold it in the chamber, and then you got to just at the right moment let it go. And it's not an easy prospect around here to make passes necessarily. Even when you're making a pass, it's probably not going to be on a straight part, or it's going to be right as you're about to get back into a corner again. So passes aren't just handed to you around here. You're really going to have to think about them and line them up just right and get that run just right, so you can, if you are going to make a pass on a straight, you really need to make sure you get the pull out of the corner correctly. As Alan DeGasse is getting a pretty good pull out of the final corner. They're going to be able to hold this one, I think, into T1 and not get attacked by anyone, as Andrew Love now a little bit beside. Was alongside Michelle Lynn there for a moment, now alongside Kurt Nunez. They're going to go too wide through T1. That's usually not going to be the fastest way to get through there. But it looks like they're doing a pretty good job so far of back and forth driving here without making contact. So hopefully we can keep this going. As we know, as it starts to get closer to the end of the race, things seem to tighten up a little bit more.
It's certainly competitive here in this race, as Angel Soto just ran into trouble. I was just going to note how smooth this race had been. You know, I guess to invoke a little bit of terminology from Randall McGrew, who called me Nostradamus the way that I cursed that with my own mind. Soto now out of this race, a first retirement from this, and we're not going to say what happened after Randall said that on the Spec Racer 4 broadcast like a year and a half ago. This Boomba described the sound made when a sheep explodes. Let's take a look at this heading into turn number 2. Soto running all by his lonesome, runs wide, misses the apex, misses just about everything. I wonder if there's some sort of like potentially a monitor issue or maybe the force feedback gave out on his wheel. That is a very odd scenario. Just looked like the front tires decided, no, we're not going to act as tires anymore. No, thank you.
Yeah, that did look like some kind of a hardware issue, didn't it, Ron? And we've all been there for sure. Your monitor blinks on you, or your graphics card decides to cough something out and stutter in front of you, and you just can't see what's going on. Or perhaps something else. I've had my brake pedal, one of the bolts kind of fell off it and it started moving around on me and I couldn't get any brakes, that kind of thing. So we're not sure what happened there, but that's what it looked like. It looked like some kind of a mechanical issue that you can chalk up to either computer or possibly hardware. Still fighting here in this mid-pack. Martin Visser having a look on at this chaos in front of him here as Alan DeGassis and Michelle Lynn locking horns for a moment there. Andrew Love now looking up the inside of Kurt Nunez. Going to get slightly blocked a little bit there by Michelle Lynn. No fault of hers, of course, there, but his free air that he had in front of him just kind of stifled a little bit there. It's going to actually funnel him back now again behind Kurt Nunez, as everybody taking a whole bunch of liberties there on the exit of that corner, which you can take pretty good liberties there, but I think that might have been a little excessive for a couple of them. You can see on our timing tower now by those red numbers how close everybody is. So we have kind of fanned out a little bit, except for maybe right around the middle of the pack and right up at the front there with Tortello, Jim Brewster, and Guido Marzucci are pretty close. Guido actually seems to have really fallen off the back of that pack. Not exactly sure how or why. We'll try to track that down for you.
Yes, I will say one of the latest casualties from all this was Josh Justice, who lost out on a lot of time, lost out on a lot of positions. He ran wide through turn number 1, ended up in the gravel trap. I think he may have also tagged the wall as well. Our camera shot at the time was right behind it, so we'll see whether he hit the wall here or not. Certainly got very close to it. So here it is, heading down into turn number 1. Josh Justice running wide, hits that gravel. Car tries to swap ends. He decides to swap ends first. Just barely avoids the tire barrier. And so far wide down to turn number 1 here at Brands Hatch, he nearly ended up in the English Channel.
Yeah, this is an easy one to do. You can see it really filters down. If you get that line wrong, it just spits you out into the gravel here. And that's exactly what happened to Josh Justice there. Just got that line a little bit wrong, maybe turned in a bit early, a bit shallow on the apex there, and it just spits you out the other side. And unfortunately, that's going to lose him a lot of time there. That was almost to a stop. in the gravel. Guido Marzucci now actually taking the lead of this race from Tortullo. Not sure where that happened. Looks like they were a little bit side by side here. I'm going to go back in our replay a little bit. Looks like it's going to be into T1. They're going to get side by side here on Guido Marzucci from the back of the pack here is going to take that inside line. Quite well done here on the inside. Nothing really either one of the drivers could do about it. They're going to try to funnel back in here. Jim Brewster may be looking for a little bit of inside up Tortullo, but going to think better of it as well. And that's how that one happened.
Yeah, so although this track may not be the strongest drafter of all the tracks that we've been at so far this season, it's still Formula V racing, so it's still going to be quite draft heavy as we look at this pack once again. The 6-pack of Vs squabbling up 3 wide as they head their way nearly into turn number 6. I think that is Andrew Love hopping the berm and goes for a hop, skip, and a jump through the gravel trap. And then there were 5. He's going to lose that on the draft here. Yeah, 1.2 seconds as he rejoins. He may fall into the clutches of Stevie Wright and Nick Tullo a little bit farther behind there. So that's going to make things a little bit easier in deciding who's potentially going to finish this race on the final step of the Masters podium. We'll take a look at a replay of what was going on up at the front a few moments ago. Guido Marzucchi, your leader at the time, runs wide, hits that curb. That's going to allow Tortullo just to close up a little bit and now go for the attack. Heading into turn number 1, he sweeps around the outside.
Yeah, pretty easy pass there into T1. We're going to see over and over again. It looks like actually the way to get that one done is around the outside in that corner. It seems to be kind of the natural sort of flow of the way that one seems to be wanting to work out here. Michelle Lynn now just behind Alan DeGassis, so making her way up to the front here. Kurt Nunez behind her. Then we have Martin Visser, and then Brian Straczynski here, who has slipped back just a little bit. Andrew Love really fallen off the back of this pack after that off track, as we're getting a lot of off tracks all of a sudden here all around the field. And I would imagine, again, that's just, you're losing a little bit of sight when you get this close to people. You kind of can't see around the back of the car if you get up too close, and that can sometimes add to that a little bit. Your margins get a little bit wider. But as well, I think we're nearing just past halfway point now, where we're starting to look at maybe where you can find a little bit of time, trying to use a little bit more of that track, trying to find a little bit more of that apex and a little bit more of that exit, and it is leading to some off tracks here. I expect to see it kind of tighten back up for a couple laps here, and then maybe back to that again near the end when we're looking for more speed. So this place is really easy to off track around. You have to take a lot of curb, you have to use a lot of exit, and it becomes really easy to use just a little bit too much, doesn't it, Ron?
Yeah, there's a very fine line when running around this place. If you go over it, you are in trouble. But if you aren't exactly there, you're not really going to be that competitive and that quick. So it is a tough track to try and manage this. It is a fun one for sure. I always love covering racing here at Brands Hatch and the Weekend Warriors. Just love covering Brands Hatch. Point blank period. It is an awesome racetrack, pretty beautiful one as well, with some amazing history in the world of motorsports. Of course, gotta imagine, of course, nowadays the World Superbike, I believe, still races here. Maybe British Superbike there, I apologize. Touring car racing every single year here. Formula One used to run around this place. I think Euro NASCAR still makes an appearance at this track every year, along with IndyCar, who ran on the Indy layout twice. In a very odd set of circumstances. In 1978, one part of a 2-part British doubleheader when they ran that year at Silverstone and Brands Hatch, and then 2003, part of a schedule with Champ Car that year. That race was actually the first ever American open wheel racing win for Sebastian Bourdais, who went on to win 4 straight Champ Car championships in the 4 years that followed. That was Guido Marzucchi getting a move done on Tortullo, heading down into turn number 5. That's how you have to do it, Josh. You need to get it done and get it done early.
Yeah, that's definitely how you do it. The confidence level there for sure. Just between him being able to make the pass as well as he knows his partner that he's going to be passing here is going to not necessarily allow that to happen, but he's going to facilitate that pass, and it's not going to be a scenario where you sweep back down and the driver's still there just because he can occupy that space and feels like doing it. He's going to get out of the way and make sure that the momentum continues here in the front, so he can attack down the front straight here, which we're probably going to see right now. Is he going to look to the outside again? Seems to be the way to get through T1 at Brands Hatch if you want to make a pass here around the outside, and I think that's pretty much because it is such a late apex. You're actually kind of eyeballing almost the back of this apex as you get it right, and he's going to go side by side there, actually side by side through the entire corner into T1 here. And I don't think Guido's going to be able to give it to him now. He's going to have the advantage on the inside through this corner, going to file back in. Tor is going to hold onto that outside, which is going to give him the inside into the next corner, and he's going to get it done. So a little bit of chess being played there from the number one. As we know, he is quite good at the mental game out here and sort of seeing ahead of himself and what's going to happen. And that's a huge part of e-racing.
Yeah, again, talking about the different dynamics of the Formula Vs here in this series. Really, the only car that I think can come close to it on iRacing is probably the Spec Racer Ford, which you'll be able to catch the season finale of in just 24 hours time here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, as Marzuki punches out, goes for the move to take the race lead once again into turn number 5. But switching away from talking about the dynamics and talking about the stars in this series, the drivers themselves, Guido Marzuki and Tortello going side by side in the manner they did through turn number 1 here at Brands Hatch, that can only really be done by two drivers that are so familiar with each other as competitors, so familiar with each other as people, and comfortable with each other as well, as basically like going up to somebody and handing them a blank check and saying, you can take however much money you want. That's pretty much what those two did, heading down into turn number 1. Now, I don't think Guido or Tor would want to do that to each other in real life in terms of actually handing them a blank check, but in terms of doing it out there on the racetrack, that's pretty much what they did there. And it looks like they're going to do it once again, heading down to turn number 1, as Tor, with assistance from Jim Brewster directly behind, applying the other pressure from the back, is now going to try and go for it around the outside through into turn number 1. Guido's still maintaining a presence there on the inside line as they head their way now up the hill into the braking zone of turn number 2. Tor sweeps around the outside to take the top spot once again.
Yeah, Guido going to back off of that one a little bit, not hold on to it quite as long as Tor did there through this section, where you can kind of come out on the inside and win it out. But as you said there, Ron, for sure, it's not a bad analogy, actually. Back and forth, you're kind of lending money one way and then lending it back the other, lending it one way and lending it back the other. But when it comes down to it at the end of it, somebody's got to finish with that purse, and that's when things get a little bit tighter. That's when all of a sudden you're going to see those margins come down a little bit, when the shoulders get a little bit wider, when perhaps we will lock a wheel. Hopefully not here, as Guido Marzucci looking up the inside now of Tortello in a bit of a newer spot for him on track. He is going to let it happen there. You can see Tor allowing that to happen, giving him that breathing room, keeping up that momentum. Jim Brewster watching on in front here, figuring out how exactly he's going to be able to get this done by the end of the race. Not an easy prospect around Brands Hatch. There's lots of places to get it done, but you definitely have to pick the correct one at the right moment and execute it correctly, or things can happen, or bad things can happen for sure. And this place isn't super wide. You know, it is an old sports car track that they would just simply not build anymore, and it makes it very aggressive for sure. And you have to be aggressive to get a pass done.
You know, it's an old school track. It's an old school car that's running around here, so that is a benefit. It's also an insect compared to some of the other cars here on iRacing. So definitely enough room to work with here in the Vs, but I don't think you'd be able to go side by side in just about anything else, especially through turn number 1, as that's Tor and Guido once again. I feel like come time for the Formula V Weekend Warriors return in Season 4 of 2024 here on iRacing. We're going to have to talk about the Tor and Guido show a whole lot, because pretty much every single race we've had so far this season, they have had some sort of battle in. When they've both been there, they've found each other out there on the racetrack every single time.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking back now with I believe that was Andrew Love and Brian Jasinski locking horns there a little bit. Brian Jasinski losing out on that one, getting pushed really wide on the track, and to lose a little bit of time there. You can see just ahead of them as well, we still have that battle between Alan Degassis, Michelle Lynn, and Kurt Nunez. Just seeing them downshifting rapidly there as the back of the car puffs a bunch of smoke. Looked like, I remember that a couple seasons ago, we had a vape sponsor that was kind of perfect for these things, wasn't it, Ron? Because they kind of like, I'm surprised that nobody has made a Formula V vape yet, one that's shaped just like a Formula V. I'd buy one, not that I vape, but I'd buy one just to have it, because it seems like such a good fit. they puff smoke so well. They're almost the same shape as a vape, and we just saw them right there downshifting rapidly, trying to kind of stay off of each other. I think in that pack of Alan Degassis, Michelle Lynn, and Kurt Nunez, they are still battling, and we will keep an eye on that battle as much as we can here. But up front again, Guido Marzucci leading now. Tortello looking around the outside into the final corner. Not gonna do it quite yet. Probably gonna have a look here into T1 though, isn't he?
Yeah, we can't act like we're too surprised here. Side by side, down into turn number 1, Tor and Guido. They've basically made this like an every lap tradition right now, and every single time they've been able to make it smooth, they've been able to make it clean. I will say they're definitely playing with fire a little bit, but we're not going to complain here in the broadcast booth unless they do end up crashing, which we'll probably be able to say, told you so. But either way, still have these battles going on for the top spots. Still have this battle going on right now for the final 2 spots inside of the top 5. Alan Degassis on track to win the championship in the Masters division, and Michelle Lynn on track to win out in her battle with Josh Justice in the championship. Justice has called it quits. I believe he had an extra incident out there on the racetrack. Has just decided to pull over and call it quits here this season. Unfortunate for Josh. Real life spec racer Ford driver in the SCCA, coming out of Texas, I believe. But a very good driver here in these Formula Vs. We often wonder exactly how much real-life Formula V racing he's had. I think I heard that he maybe has driven a Formula V in real life, but certainly in the sim, he is quick in them. He noses it into the barrier. That was heading out of turn number 4. Hit the curb too much. Around he goes, and he'll tow back to pit lane in due course. Unfortunate there. As we see a side-by-side battle here, this actually Dan Stasinski and Brian Hansen. The Brian and Dan show heading down into turn number 5, and Brian getting the other nose out over Dan in that little squabble there. I believe, based off how things would look right now, Martin Visser would maybe have the leg up in the championship, but once we get off into the technicalities of how things may work when it comes to drop rounds and everything, that's when it starts to be, to invoke a little bit of Carrie Underwood, that's when Jesus starts to take the wheel.
Yeah, just looking at I believe this is Dan Stasinski. I always get them mixed up. Dan Stasinski in the TW3 livery there that Tom Wendt made for him with the Simpsons on it. Still just loving that. Wanted to showcase it a little bit more on stream. Unfortunately, losing out on that position to Brian Hansen. I suppose depending on which way you look at that, Brian Hansen as a good thing for him. Looks like he's going to be able to hold on to it with some pace today in the 7-7-1 there. So we'll keep an eye on this little battle here as well. Lots of battles to try to keep an eye on here as they're going to fan out and kind of have a look for it there, but not quite enough momentum to get that one done quite yet. Back up front here with Tortello now catching a little bit of lap traffic up there. Could end up being a part of this story by the end here. Obviously, we never like to see it when lap traffic actually plays a role and gets in the way, but it does happen, and it is part of racing, so it's something that you have to think about as you're approaching these cars. Guido Marzucci on the inside now in the fart machine looking for the win today. I would imagine, you know, because of that incident he had and he's not really fighting for that victory, he's going to want to end it on a win today. He's going to want to kind of stamp it and be like, well, I could have, you know, if it didn't happen last week. So at least that's what I'd be thinking out there for sure. He's really got nothing to lose at this point either. So I think it's going to be a pretty hard-fought battle here up at the front. Jim Brewster, the dark horse in this 3-car race here. I would not be surprised if he makes a pretty froggy move by the end here and gets something done. We know Jim Brewster is always looking for the gaps in front of him, and he knows how to find them. So we shall see what happens right here. Tortello getting a good run on Guido Marzucci now, and that lap traffic going to play a role here, I believe. Nope, just got out of the way. Not too bad there. So good for the lap traffic. I believe that was Paul Gordeschi in the 980 there, doing an excellent job of getting out of the way now as we have side-by-side racing up at the front run.
And Paul Gordeschi, one of the newer drivers here in this series as this community continues to grow. Do want to actually mention this because I wasn't around for last week's Spec Racer Ford broadcast here on SMB to bring this up. I'm not sure if you or Charles brought it up last week, but I will bring it up here on this Formula V show. The brand new relaunched Weekend Warriors Discord server, now under one community, now under one umbrella. If you want to join that server, you can join the Slow Motion Broadcasting Discord server, linked to this YouTube channel here, and you can learn to be a part of the events coming up in the Ray Esports and Weekend Warriors world. We're coming up into the end of this race. The white flag going to be out in the air very, very soon. It will be borderline as to whether they take it this time by or next. They're about a minute away from the time being exhausted, and they're heading their way off through turn number 6 and turn 7 right now. Gen Alpha is going to have a field day with that. I think they'll take it with about 15 seconds left to go. But either way, a slice of the fight will definitely be on.
Yeah, I think so. I think we may be nearing our white flag lap here now. I think it's going to be just in time for them to catch this white flag, perhaps. And this will be the last one. We'll keep an eye on it here and see if Barney is waving that flag for us. But Tortello leading us and is going to make a mistake. Vitally right on perhaps the last lap here is going to lose a bunch of momentum going down into T1 here. Not seeing that flag out yet. And yes, this will be the final lap. Guido Marzucci is going to lead us into T1. A very uncharacteristic mistake there from Tortello. Not really going to hamper him too much, though. In fact, you know what? That may have even been on purpose. That might be something that you want to do. You want to be behind the driver for this last lap. And, you know, I wouldn't put it past Tor that he would drag a wheel maybe to get a little bit behind, but I also not sure he would do something like that either. He is a very, very clean, very respectful, very kind of heads-up driver here as well. But, you know, he wants this win today as well, so not exactly sure if that was on purpose or not. I've definitely seen it many times in front of me. Jim Brewster looking behind them now for a way by. Can he find a way by these two drivers by the end of the race? It is totally possible as they go side by side here, and Jim is looking on.
Yeah, and so I think Tor may have put a hat on a sea creature there. That may have been on purpose. So we're looking now. He's been able to take the race lead as they head their way out of 5 through turn number 6 now. And with only one long flat-out run through to the checkered flag, that being between 8 and 9, which compared to the back straightaway, really not that long of a blast. This may be a bit of a good sign for Tor and a bad sign for Guido. As they head their way through turn number 8, a little bit of grass mowing as they head their way out of the turn. Guido trying to pursue that draft. Jim Brewster going to be right there in third in case these two come to blows. I'm not sure if he'll be able to make anything up there.
Oh, he's going to hit the grass again.
Runs wide. The lawnmower as he heads his way onto the start-finish straightaway. Guido trying to pull that gap, but I'm not sure if it will be enough. They come towards the stripe side by side. It's 66 thousandths of a second, but Tortello wins the championship, wins the race here at Brands Hatch with very close margins.
Close
little
behind
photo
them.
Finish here as well. Alan DeGassis, Michelle Lynn, and Curtin Nunez covered by just about nothing. Another photo finish there. Stasinski and Love. Brian Stasinski and Andrew Love. I think Brian Stasinski will love that as he got the advantage on Love by about 37 thousandths of a second at the end of this race. Still have one close little battle. It's Wayne Buttermore and Stephen Westcott that are battling for 14th out there on the road. They're heading their way for the final turn right about now, unless there's a trip up from Buttermore and a fantastic exit from Westcott. This may come up the way of Wayne Buttermore and the 973 cars. They head their way towards the line, and yes, it will. All the cars have come across the stripe, and that is the end of the Weekend Warriors Formula V season. And we ended just as we usually end Formula V races. Good photo finishes and a very exciting finish.
Oh, and a bit of a 3-wide incident here. When he's going to get catapulted over the 771. Unfortunately, of Brian Hansen and the Spicy Racing machine there. That was quite the crash there for Gary Kittle, who is going to unfortunately get flipped over onto his onion there at the end of the race. There was a bit of racing going on all over the field on that last lap. I'm going to do my best here to try to catch up to perhaps some of our passes here if I can find any of them. We got a pass from Stevie Ray here on the final lap. I believe this was around Nick Tullo, and there was a couple more side-by-side racing. Unfortunately, it didn't really give me the ticker so I can click on them, but there was a little bit of racing there between the pack with Michelle Lynn, Kurt Nunez, and Alan DeGassis in it as well, and we did see how that one finished off, but there's Stevie Ray getting a pass done on Nick Tullo. I don't believe Nick got that one back by the end, so pretty awesome race up to the end there, Ron. Not a bad way to finish out the season. I really like that we did finish at Brands Hatch. Such a great racetrack.
Yeah, it was an awesome racetrack and just an awesome season. I mean, the racetracks that we got the opportunity to visit throughout this campaign here in Season 2 of 2026, it was a fantastic track selection. Usually we go a bit farther away from the official schedules that the Formula Fords and the Spec Racer Fords follow here. But Lime Rock, Barber, and of course with the other Brian and Dan show there, that still sticks out of my head. The Bend, that was definitely a bit of an oddball, but I think that was a fun one as well. Summit Points, Indianapolis, that was an amazing finish there. Blew out my vocal cords in the process of calling that finish, but I could not be happier about that. Okayama, Aragon, Phillip Island, Alton Park, VIR, Lebanon, and of course Brands Hatch here for the final race of this season. The official Vs are actually running at Rudskoga. That would be an odd track to bring in here for these Formula Vs. I'd love to see that Draft Fest hang down into turn number 3 on that layout. But as the field burns it down, as Wayne Buttermore vaulting over the side of your second place finisher, Guido Marzuki, we'll cut to a wide shot and go through your results at the end of this. He's actually, after this replay, Michelle Lynn, the sponsor of this broadcast. Thank you, Michelle. Heading down to turn number 2 after the end. A bit of Beyblade, let it rip kind of stuff going on there.
That was very Beyblade of them, wasn't it? Wow, I have not heard Beyblade in quite a while, Ron. That's a little bit actually beyond my time. Truth be known, I was a little old for Beyblades, but I do remember them. They were a massive hit for a little while, and somebody doing their best impression of one of a losing Beyblade there, perhaps, with pieces flying off of it as it gets smashed by another competitor. Stevie Ray doing a nice little somersault there. That was a good little handspring he got going there in his machine. Not seeing that all the time. That was pretty good.
Yeah, we've seen some fantastic acrobatics here in these Formula Vs over the past couple of seasons, but Dan Zazinski, if we can follow him there, he's stuck in the fence.
No.
I just barely caught a glimpse of him there as everybody was just piling in. Yeah, we gotta see this. I just saw a glimpse of the wheels on that car. Let's see. Hang down to the turn. Oh, vaults over Michelle. And then there you go.
Wow.
Stuck
I haven't seen that.
Being under the ground and above the ground. So basically caught between, ascending to the heavens and descending to the depths of hell. I have never.
Yeah, he's half in Shadow Realm, half out of the Shadow Realm there, all at the same time. Not, it was very reminiscent of an F1 crash we had years ago. I forget where it was now. One of the, I believe it was a Toro Rosso there, flipped and ended up wedged between the barrier in front of the fans. Pretty awesome. That's correct. Yes, I was going to attempt that name, but I decided not to try. Yeah, that's who it was for sure. Very similar incident there that he just had. And of course, we love to burn down the cars at the end there. It's always just for fun. Holy, I believe that was Nick Tullo. Let's go on board with him there for, that was a salacious crash into the barriers there. Not one you see every day. I'm going to try to slow that one down a little bit and catch it as he's coming in here. Wow, yeah, this one was about as fast as you ever want to crash a V, I think. We're going to go on board with him.
Just listen in.
Wow. Oh! Wow, no survivors on that one. And Stevie Ray dancing in the foreground. That was a pretty good shot. Awesome stuff here in the Vs. Always fun to burn them down at the end, huh, Ron?
I have rarely been happier. That was absolutely amazing. But let's take a look at your race results for the final race of the season after one more glimpse of this here for Alan Degassis. This was a pretty wild ride heading down to turn number 1. And off the back of Curtin Nunez,
well done.
One full flip over and then hits pretty much head first directly into the tire barrier. Now, the tire barrier is here on iRacing, with a couple of exceptions. I know they have soft barrier physics now at Daytona on the backstretch chicane. I will still call it the bus stop. I refuse to call it the Le Mans chicane. That is the only, I think, example of soft barriers here in Sim. But we'll load up your overall results here in a couple of moments on. Those are how everybody looked in Spec 1. Here's how everybody looked in this race. Tortullo is victorious, wins by a vast yawning chasm of 59 thousandths of a second. Jim Brewster ends up a country mile away, 3/10 off of your race winner, rounding out your podium in third. Only in the Formula Vs, where 0.320 of a second is a big gap at the end between all of your podium runners. It's not enough, though, to win the championship, as Alan DeGassis, we believe, has taken honors in your Masters division. Michelle Lynn sponsored this broadcast. Thank you, Michelle.
Actually, just got points update, so we will have points update by the end. Sorry to interrupt there, Ron. I'm just loading them in now, and we'll have our final points for the end of the race here.
Yeah, no worries there, Mr. Wilkie. It's P5 for Michelle, fittingly, that number 5 car. And she didn't get jinxed in the race that she was sponsoring there as well, so it works out pretty all right. Finishing this race in 6th is Kurt Nunez. Brian Szynski ends up directly behind him in 7th. Andrew Love is in 8th. Martin Visser wins it in the Spec 2 category. We didn't talk too much about that Spec 2 class, but I believe that will be enough for Martin Visser to potentially become your champion, although we will look for further word here later on. Stevie Ray will complete your top 10 here in this race. Nick Tullo ends up in 11th. Dan Szynski in P12, Brian Hansen in 13th, lucky spot P13, Wayne Buttermore in 14th place, Stephen Westcott in 15th, Paul Kordeski in P16, Gary Cattell ends up in 17th place, Joshua Justice is in 18th with one more driver, that being Angel Soto, rounding out your 19 drivers classified here in the final race of the Formula V Weekend Warriors here in Season 2 of 2026. I look for official word, and we have found it. Martin Visser wins the championship over Brian Hansen by 5 points at the end of 12 weeks. That shows you how competitive this series is. But let's get the interviews up and rolling, shall we? I think we'll start by having a chat with my fellow Philadelphian and the sponsor of this broadcast, who surprisingly did not get jinxed in the broadcast that she sponsored, Michelle Lynn, joining us here in the booth. Michelle, welcome in. The Falling Anvil didn't find you here.
Dude. All right, sorry. Number one, I'm exhausted, but Ron, get out of my brain, man, because that whole time I'm thinking, like, I sponsored today, I'm getting killed. Like, literally, even with like 3 laps to go, I'm like, where's the anvil? I was like terrified, and maybe that didn't help because Alan is hard to get around, and I made a lot of attempts, but none of them really panned out. I could have gotten around if I like really pushed it, and maybe would have taken us out. And I'm like, don't be the anvil yourself. And I'm like thinking championship points. I need points to beat Justice, and I did. But then I looked at the championship points, and Brian came up from behind and nabbed my 3rd place in the championship. So congrats, Brian. Boo.
Yeah, but we'll say boo hiss to Brian. I'll just tell everybody that we interview here to say that during the other post-race review with Brian a little bit later on here. Is he still actually doing that? Because I know he's up in Road America with the mobile sim rig.
Here's the story. Dan and Brian are with their dad, who is racing for real. So they drove like 45 minutes from the track and found one of these places, that have like, sim rigs. There's a name for that, which my brain isn't coming up with right now. But
it's kind of like a sim racers group here on SM.
Yeah, exactly. But like, at near the track. And so they actually were racing from rental rigs today. And Dan was like, at least he was happy because he races on like I'm pretty sure like an Xbox controller. But it was a big step up for him. But sorry, I'm rambling, guys, as always.
Oh, no, it's quite all right. Do you listen to a show that I do, Michelle? That's 98. I get paid to ramble into a microphone for hours on end. So I have
call the kettle black. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I gotcha.
We'll say for comedic sakes that they're at a sim racing cafe or whatever the correct technical term, sim racing studio.
Sim center,
we'll say that they're
like that.
somewhere, I don't know, in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. But Michelle, pretty good way to end off the season. I know there was some trouble in the mid portion, took a break, and then after that break, it seemed like that was enough to get the bad luck monkey off your back as you ended the season with a string of pretty good results.
Yeah, I know that what I'm about to say does apply for multiple cars, but especially in the V, there is this balance between being like safe and very aggressive, and it's like finding that balance is what nets you the good finishes. You can't be too safe or everyone will get by you, but if you take too many risks, you have incidents. And in real life, I had no problem with that because I didn't want to die and I didn't want to like damage my car. But in sim, I was essentially having trouble this season with finding that balance, and I was starting to get too aggressive. Yeah, there were some anvils that dropped on me that I had nothing to do with, but there were other situations where I was just being a little too aggressive. So since I took that break, I've kind of dialed back. I'm still aggressive, but not as much, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're still going for the jugular, but you're not doing it with a machete or a chainsaw. You're doing it with something a bit more dainty, like an olive fork.
So well said, Mr. Philly.
Yeah, it's at times like this where people can understand that I hit my head quite a lot as a small child. You can tell. But Michelle, I do want to ask you at the end of this season. Of course, we're heading off into kind of like the summer break for the usual Weekend Warriors action. You have the SMB, the Weekend Warriors kind of summer challenge heading off here. So will we be seeing you out there on the racetrack still in some of those Formula V races throughout that schedule, or?
Yeah. So. Number one, it'll be a nice little break. We'll start back up in the fall, like we always, with a regular season. But this third quarter of the year for iRacing, Stevie has this special race series worked out because he wants to get everyone together, get the numbers up, and get the people running cars that aren't used to running, other cars. So I'm gonna take part, when I can, but being a bass player, I typically have like a lot of festivals in the summer, and so I know of at least 3 weekends I'm not going to be able to make. So it's going to be more piecemeal for me, and just fitting them in where I can.
Yeah, so we'll certainly be seeing you out there on the racetrack here on the weekends, and probably as well in the Sim Racers Group F3 Championship this upcoming season.
Oh, 100% there.
That actually just reminded me, I didn't mention this earlier on in the show. I'll probably tell Josh to say this during the Spec Racer Ford broadcast. Our congratulations to Jason Green, who won the prestigious Billy Award over there in the SRG F3 series this past season. But you'll also have to let me know about some of those music festivals, because the last one, I nearly ended up going because I was aware of a break in my schedule. Then I thought that I couldn't go because I was offered like a 7-hour broadcast that night. And then they said, okay, we're not actually going to do that. And then they came back and said like 2 days beforehand, no, we need you to do that. So that was a festive occasion to say the very least. But I'll have to go out and have a trip. We've been talking about having like an actual, Weekend Warriors kind of meetup here in Philly for quite some time. We need to get Christian Kabanka on board with some sort of trip as well.
Well, we have a festival. We're playing Strawberry Moon Festival the last Saturday. I think it's the last Saturday of this month, but I know that it's sold out. But if I'll send you like a poster. But if you can make it, I think I can get you on like the band's guest list, so I could probably get you in. But we'll figure that out. We don't have to do that during the interview after the race.
Figure out logistics and everything right away.
Yeah, exactly. But one more thing, and then I'm going to say my thank yous and go because you've got a lot of people waiting. I'm definitely running F3 next season. Jason Green and I are teamed up because they do like teams in Sim Racers group. So we're going to be racing Duldime Racing, and I'm working on the paint this weekend. I'm super excited for that. He's been such a great, we weren't really teammates last season, but he's been like a teammate. He's been super supportive and helping me tons. And I'm really looking forward to that. I want to thank Stevie for this wonderful league, Jim for all his hard work, Guido for making a new Discord, Brian, Grider, all the guys that help stewarding. There are a lot of people that go into making the Formula V such a good group. And what it is, and just shout out to all of them and appreciate you all. And I'll be hitting you up for the last quarter of this year for sponsorship, so that's coming up. Anyway, I'm going to take off and let you interview other people, but thanks for having me, and thank you for everything that Slow Motion Broadcasting does. You guys are amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words, Michelle, and we will see you out there on the racetrack, wherever it is, in the not-too-distant future.
Bye, guys.
And that right there was sponsor of this broadcast, Michelle Lynn. Whenever her and I end up in the booth, it's usually a pretty lengthy discussion, so I do apologize for that, Mr. Wilkie, but I'll pass the mic off to you and ask who you would like to have a chat with next.
No worries at all. You know what? Let me see who's up in the booth here. Let's bring down Guido Marzucci, have a quick chat with him here. Guido, Pretty awesome final
Hello.
round there. We're not quite able to bring home the win, and unfortunately last week with the incident there, kind of out of the points for a championship, but had an amazing season, all said and done for sure. You're able to really get pointy this year. The confidence level seems to have really come up, and the driving with it, and you're able to be fighting for that championship win this year. So you must be pretty stoked about that.
Oh yeah. So just to be clear, even without the incident, I was already mathematically out of the championship contention, even last week. So even without the incident, the only chance that I had it was to win the last 2 races, and Thor didn't show up. But he showed up last night. He showed up, and just being on the grid, he was already the champion. So it wasn't for that. It was an unfortunate race. This one was much better. I had a lot of fun. It's great to drive around these really fast guys. With Thor, we had a really great battle, very respectful, back and forth all the race. It was extremely fun. It's always a pleasure to race with him, and Jim was on pace today, and he was able to keep up with us, and it's impressive. So congratulations to Jim. Not impressive in general, but impressive because he had surgery to his wrist a few weeks ago. So this was the first time on the rig after the surgery, and he was already on pace. So kudos to him for it, and it was well deserved. Unfortunately, he didn't get the Masters Championship, but it was impressive, and it was a great race, a fun race. It's always a pleasure to fight with Thor. It's always the battles are always extremely respectful. And I'm just happy. As I said last season, I got P2 in the championship even last season, and as I said last season, I will say this season, it's good to be the first of the terrestrials. So it's good to be able to make him sweat for the wins, like today. I forced him to make a couple of mistakes. So yeah, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty proud about my season. I won a couple of races. I was quite consistent, but he had a hell of a season. His worst result was 3rd. So he won 4 races. He got 7 P2s and 1 P3.
That man's on iracing steroids.
Yeah, I mean, the people tell me how it's possible to beat Thor. I don't know. Maybe someone will have to shoot to his tires for it to happen. So
Get some oil slicks and some guns.
But he's a friend. He's a great racer. I learned really a lot from him. He's a young lad. He's really fast. He's also in real life. It's a pleasure to race with him. I learned really a lot from him, and I wouldn't be here now with 2 P2s in the championships and a few wins under my belt without having a race with him. So I really thank him, and I will make it short. I will go with the thanks right now. So thanks to Stevie for the Weekend Warriors. Thanks to Michelle and Jim for everything they do for the Formula V's league. Thanks to all the drivers that show up every Saturday to race with us. Thanks to you. In slow motion broadcasting every single time. It's a pleasure to watch the broadcast again. And thanks to Team Ginetto as usual. Forza Team Ginetto. And I will leave the spot to the winner. He deserves it.
Awesome, Guido. Well, that was it was a great season, man. It was fun to watch you out there. Thank you for the kind words and stuff. And we will see you out on track, I'm sure, in the coming days here, man. Have a good one. Good to talk to you.
See you tomorrow, guys.
Bye-bye.
And right there was our friend and colleague Guido Marzucchi joining us here in the booth. I'll have a quick chat here with Brian Szynski on the run at the moment. Brian, welcome in. First off, before I ask you about how your race went, I do want to ask you about the mobile setup that you've got right now. You're coming to us from kind of like a sim racing cafe. When I saw that you and Dan were out there on the track, I was wondering whether you were racing in the trailer like you did a couple of years ago, but deciding for something slightly more comfortable here today.
Yes. Dan and I are driving back to Road America, and we had a wonderful time at the racing house, West Bend, Wisconsin. We could definitely get used to having the big triple monitors and, the top of the line wheels and pedals. Only getting, like a half an hour to warm up and get used to seating position and everything was a bit tough, but awesome facility. I recommend to anybody looking to get some time while they're at the track. And I did it because I looked and figured everybody else is in the drop weeks, and I could get some points and get a podium in S1. And can't take that for granted, so I figured I'd go get it while I could. And, happy to finish third in S1.
Well, that right there is dedication, getting that result right under the wire right at the end of the season. I do want to ask you about this race because it looked like a pretty competitive one out there. Brands Hatch, always a pretty fun track here in these Formula Vs.
Yes. With limited time, I was really happy with my qualifying time. And then running, I had a little bobble, and I let the top three guys break away. And I think I had another one later where the next three cars got away, and I think I went down to 10th and had to kind of claw back the 7th place. It's always a fun track. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it's always a blast at Brands Hatch, and y'all put on a fun race as always. I do want to ask you about the real-life activities at Road America. I heard that there were some electric issues a bit earlier on here, so I would assume those have now been resolved in time for tomorrow's on-track action?
I hope so. They seem to have... When I left, I heard an engine running correctly, so... hopefully he has it back out there and it runs the whole race. That's the reason I kept my car at home, is because I was having those issues and didn't have time to get the rest of it set up. So I'm just driving around with my two kids in a golf cart this weekend, which is also a hell of a weekend.
Yeah, that is a good family memory. That's gonna stick in their head for many moons. But good luck to obviously your dad Bill competing out there in the June sprints up there at Road America, and good luck to the rest of the family. Hope you all have a good time. And Brian, we'll let you give any thank yous or shout outs before we let you go, and enjoy the rest of the road trip back up there.
Yeah, thanks as always for giving us a great broadcast year after year, season after season. Thanks, Stevie, Jim, Michelle, everybody who does all the hard, I'd say unthanked work, but everybody kind of thanks them a lot and realizes they do a good job. But thanks to them, and especially thanks to the racing house, West Bend, Wisconsin.
Good thank the guy driving you.
Thanks, Dan, for driving me.
Driving there.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
We have created conflict inside.
Uh-oh, family
Ron,
feud.
I'll let you go and get all that sorted. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you out there for the
Thanks,
Weekend
guys.
Warriors summer shootout this upcoming season.
Later.
And that right there is Brian Szynski. That was the funniest way to end off that interview. I'm sorry. But
yeah.
Josh, I'll
Good
pass the mic off to you to have a chat with series admin and all-around nice guy returning here to the Weekend Warriors with a fantastic P3 run. That being none other than Jim Brewster.
Yeah, Jim, great finish here. Looks like you took yourself down to the shop, got fixed up a little bit. Boom, gets a podium first time back out on the recovery tour there. So pretty good job here around Brands Hatch. Maybe let us know how you did it.
Well, I like this place. I told Andrew, I said I'm almost as comfortable here as I'm at Summit. Like I really feel I can attack it. I actually won last night also. So
Nice.
And Thursday was my first day back on the steering wheel. So I'm really happy with that. It was really, you know how it is when you do well. You don't screw up, do anything stupid. You don't run anybody over in front of you. You know, following those two guys is tough because you're running them over in places. And you see, I jumped up in front of Guido for a while, and then I went to go around Tor once, and he made it clear that he didn't want me to go past him. So, and I wanted to get that gap up to 8 or 10 seconds, you know, between me and Alan and everybody else. So I said, fine, I'll sit here. And then the last lap, I just didn't have a good last lap where I could take a shot at it. But I'm really excited, you know, after being gone for 3 weeks. You know, it's a pitiful statement. For most of us, 3 weeks away from the steering wheel is a really long time.
It really is, yeah.
You know, that is, you know, that's not a strong statement. Anyway, I'm very excited that you guys got the points right away, and I'm sure you got to announce them. As you saw, the big leapfrog was Brian jumping up, and you know, Michelle was fighting with Josh theoretically, and Brian stole the bacon from both of them. I knew that Alan had me covered. If he just showed up and was still breathing, he had it covered. And then the S2 battle, you know, we knew that was going to be a good fight. So I'm really glad you guys got to have the points and got to, you know, congratulate the folks on the air and celebrate.
Yeah,
so I know we're going to miss
absolutely.
you guys this summer. Well, we'll see you guys this summer in our totally crazy, you know, summer vacation league with Stevie. But we look forward to. We actually got a couple people to commit for sponsorships for the fall Formula V season. So we'll be back here full speed in the fall as soon as we're done with summer recess.
Awesome. Sounds great. And hopefully we'll see you out there during that summer recess here and on Slow Motion Broadcasting on Sundays at the usual time. I think probably around the SRF time, I believe, is around 12:45 my time, PST.
I told my family that my Saturdays will be free and my Sundays will be busy for the summer, and then we'll go back to Saturdays in the fall. So
right on,
anyway,
yeah.
Hey,
little hiatus. Yeah, good to see you too, Jim.
To join you guys. You know, weird combination of events that I didn't get to join you guys, but anyway, thanks for everything you do. I'm really looking forward to going and watching the replay of this. Thanks for everything, guys.
Awesome. Right on, Jim. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the work you do out there, and congrats on the third finisher. And of course, hello, Tam. We'll be talking to Jim again at some point, I am sure, sooner than later. But that's pretty much going to wrap us up here for this season, is it not, Ron? Perhaps we can cover a couple final things here, but what do you got to say?
Well, I think what I've got to say is just about the same thing that I've said after every single Formula V Weekend Warriors season that we've covered since season 4, technically, was when we started off on the full-time shows back in 2024. Started off with season 3 of 2024. This series was the first one that I ever broadcasted here on SMB with our old pal, my Weekend Warriors predecessor, somebody who helped me out a whole lot when I started broadcasting, and someone who's actually worked with me on one of my first shows. You know him, you love him, we would love to see him again, Tim Cox. And ever since then, love covering the Formula Vs here on SMB. And of course, as Jim just said, you'll be able to catch the Formula Vs back again on a full-time basis here on Saturdays on Slow Motion Broadcasting come time for the fall. We've talked a lot about already the Weekend Warriors Summer Vacation, we may end up calling it, the Summer Showdown Series. That'll be super duper fun. Have a lot of cars in rotation, the Spec Racer Fords, the Formula Vs, Formula Fords, and I think I heard something about maybe some MX-5s. Oh, we'll give you more information come time for tomorrow's broadcast, and for sure we'll be able to run you through everything come time for the 49th Weekend Warriors virtual runoffs here in about a week and a day's time here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. A fantastic season as always, a very deserving set of champions, but Josh, it was a whole lot of fun. And actually, there's the little information bug there for the 49th V runoff. So an interesting format here, the inverted speed challenge. We've got slow cars and we've got fast cars. If you're driving one of the fast Formula cars, that being the F4, you've got to drive the slow sports car, that being the Spec Racer Ford. If you're driving the slow Formula car, the Formula V, you got to drive the Radical SR8 later on. You know, Josh, I think the last time we covered Radical action was the end of our time covering the Radical SR10 officials together way back when. So that'll be a nice little return for us in about a week's time.
Yeah, absolutely. SR8 being legacy material now on iRacing, so you don't get to run that very often. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to seeing that out on track. And should be a pretty cool one. I like the slow to fast idea there. And then we'll be going into our, like you said, our sort of, I wouldn't call it a summer break because we are going to be racing on Sundays, but we'll be taking a little bit of pause from our usual Weekend Warrior shows to kind of make them all one show on Sunday, take a little break, and then back for season 4 again. But has been a pretty awesome season out there, Ron. We do not have an upcoming shows graphic quite yet because we are actually loading up all our new shows. Definitely do stay tuned and like and subscribe because we do have a ton of new shows coming your way, a bunch of new leagues, as well as reorienting some of the leagues we have. And we are going to be a very busy summer here at Slow Motion Broadcasting, just getting ready to staff everything up and get our shows lined up for you as we speak pretty much here. And a bunch of new information to come, like Ron's saying, over maybe tomorrow's race, and definitely at the 49th runoffs. We'll have lots of information about our upcoming season there. But I think that's just about it for me here, Ron. I'll let you have the final words here, and we'll wrap up the round 12 of our Formula V race.
Yes, indeed, Josh. Thank you very much for the amazing production work, as always. Pulling double duty here. You know, as somebody who's done this commentary stuff for as long as I have, been doing production work for about a year now, and who's gotten the opportunity to do both, that is a tall order, running comms and production, especially with me being a raging tornado on these broadcasts. But Josh, fantastic work as always. We've done so many of these shows together here on the Formula Vs on Saturday afternoon, Saturday morning for you, that it feels like a tradition. That tradition will of course be coming back. Our thanks as usual go out to all of the folks in the Weekend Warriors community, specifically of course the namesakes, Series admin Stevie Ray, Michelle Lynn, Jim Brewster, Brian Szynski for all the other work there. We'll shout out his brother Dan as well, and Brian Hansen, both of them sponsoring that Barber broadcast a little bit earlier on this season that led to maybe one of the most enjoyable broadcasts I've done in my entire broadcasting career. Just want to thank the sponsors that made this season possible as well. Of course, Jim Brewster picked it up with the first round of the championship. Brian Hansen, Dan Szynski, Kurt Nunez, Andrew Love, Brian Szynski a little bit later on in the season, Stephen Westcott, Nick and Tortello, your champion in the Spec 1 category. Dan Szynski picked it up a little bit later on for his own sponsorship. Andy Middleton, Martin Visser, Raphael Boley, Wayne Buttermore last week, and Michelle Lynn here tonight. I want to thank you all as well for tuning into the action throughout this season here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, and thank the drivers who participate in these events. We would not be here covering the amazing racing, and you wouldn't be here tuning into this broadcast if it weren't for those drivers showing up week in and week out. So our thanks to the Weekend Warriors community once again. But as for this broadcast here, for round number 12, the final round of the Formula V Weekend Warriors here in Season 2 of 2026, that will just about do it. Our congratulations go out to your champions in all three of our classes: Tortello in Spec 1, Martin Visser in Spec 2, and your champion in the Masters category, that being Alan DeGassis. We want to thank you all for tuning into the action all season long here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. But that'll just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Joshua Wilkie, working the comms and the cams with me on this show, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action all season long on Slow Motion Broadcasting, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.